welcome back to my channel. I'm Coach Michelle Mills. I'm known as the Eczema Coach, and today we are talking about medications, and in my opinion, healing your eczema naturally is the only way to genuinely heal your skin. I've been coaching people for the last 5+ years, and through this experience, I speak to people on a daily basis who have used medications and are in a completely worse state than when they started. So typically, eczema likes to show up on the insides of elbows, backs of knees, around your eyes, around your mouth. There's a lot of different places that it can show up, and it has typical ways that it usually looks. There's different types of eczema. Eczema is kind of an umbrella. So I'm going to put an image right here about the umbrella and the different types of eczema that are out there. And I really need to tell you my 3 major issues with the use of medication. You need to know this information. If you have eczema and it's severe enough that you need some sort of intervention, whether it is going on a natural protocol or whether you've been considering these medications, I just want to tell you some stories about what people have gone through, and as a coach, how people show up to me after the use of medications. I'm not going to go into details in this video about specific medications and my opinions and side effects. I have a post on my Instagram specific to that. It's this one. But what we're going to do today is I just want to come from a place of storytelling and explain what I've seen in this entire history. So I use steroids. I remember having this little tube of steroids that would always be in the top drawer of my dresser, and I would use little bits at a time. And thankfully, I never went through withdrawal. And I was very lucky because I meet children and adults who are going through withdrawal from it, TSW, topical steroid withdrawal. And what ends up happening is there's kind of a chain of events of medications that are being prescribed to people with eczema, and it just proliferates everything and makes everything way worse. So, for example, I met with a mother and daughter today, and she was like, well, I think she's going through some sort of gut issue. And I was like, okay. She sends me the pictures, and she has full body eczema with these teeny tiny flakes. She's miserable. She's itching absolutely everywhere. I mean, it is nearly covering her entire body. And while this can happen with eczema, it is a lot less common than when this occurs with TSW. And so I let them know, hey, like, this is actually TSW. This isn't what you thought it was. It's not candida. It's not a gut. Well, that's part of this whole thing is, yes, it is also candida and it's a gut imbalance because of the use of steroids, but that is not the main issue. The main issue and what's causing this full body flare is her coming off of steroids. So I talked to them for a minute and I was like, what has the use of steroids been like? And she was like, well, we just recently were using an antihistamine mixed with a steroid. And I was like, okay, kind of. Tell me the whole history. So they end up saying that she used steroids for years, and she came off of it 2 years ago and had a full body flare. And I was like, that's TSW right there. And this is just one case of so many that I have to talk to and experience. And there's actually a lot of people on Instagram telling their stories through these medication withdrawals. So one of my clients right now is dealing with TSW. She has this situation covering all of her arms. It's on her face, it's on her neck, and she essentially can barely eat anything because the way that these medications interfere with your body is very unnatural. So it causes a lot of issues with our ability to manage stress, causes a ton of issues in our gut. I'm going to put some information here on the different side effects and issues that these steroids can actually cause. And so it affects the liver, and some people who go through this withdrawal end up in a place where they can hardly eat anything at all because it actually makes histamine intolerance worse, the use of steroids. And people with eczema tend to be histamine intolerant anyway. On top of that, add in an overworked liver from the medications, and now you have a whole host of issues, like a salicylate intolerance. Then you have this issue that occurs with it where if you consume something that increases your nitric oxide, which will dilate your blood vessels, which is usually a really great thing, the use of the steroids, your blood vessels are already dilated. And so what ends up happening is you get a major flare-up and your skin goes bright red, like super, super bright red. And you feel really itchy, you feel miserable, and it's sad because a lot of the best foods for you have nitric oxide, and a lot of the foods that heal your liver have nitric oxide. And so a lot of the ways that you would want to go about healing naturally no longer work because of this use of a medication. And the ability for somebody to listen to their body and understand what's going on gets warped. And we're just talking about steroids right now. There's a whole host of other medications and new medications out there. And with all of that, people are experiencing really crazy symptoms. So what ends up happening is people will get prescribed Protopic. They say, oh, it's not a steroid. And so they start using Protopic, usually on the face, and people experience Protopic withdrawal. This one's less common, so I personally, as a coach, have less data on how to help somebody through Protopic withdrawal because it's so different from steroid withdrawal. Steroid withdrawal, I'm like, okay, you probably have candida, you probably have a histamine intolerance, your liver's overworked, we need to target you from these sides. When it's Protopic withdrawal, it's a lot less understood. And so it's like, okay, what's going on with the body from this medication? Then they prescribe Dupixent, which is a biologic, and it targets a specific part of the immune system. And that ends up with a lot of people having side effects of conjunctivitis. I'm going to put the word here. And it's a lot of issues with your eyes. And it's just sad to watch so many people come to me where they're not even experiencing eczema. They're experiencing side effects of medications, and I have to coach them through the process. And that's why I'm making this video, because a lot of the work that I do on my one-on-one clients is getting them through trying to get their bodies to regulate naturally after using all these medications. And so spoke to somebody else who was on a trial of a immunosuppressant medication. She said for the first year it worked so well, and she was like, great, I don't have to deal with eczema, this is wonderful, I finally found a solution. Within the second year, she had very severe and very strange side effects. She had to get off of it immediately, and of course she now has to deal with the eczema that was underlying, and now whatever side effects this medication is causing, because none of these medications are addressing the root causes. That's why I preach you have to heal eczema naturally, because that actually addresses the root causes, which is usually stress management. It's healing your gut. It's healing your liver. It's making sure your body is producing enzymes to break down histamines. It's a holistic process of healing, and it's the only way to truly heal from eczema. Some people grow out of it, or a life change happens to where they no longer get eczema anymore, and that's great and that's wonderful. But for a lot of people with chronic eczema, the way out is through a holistic process and changing your lifestyle. It is so sad to me to watch how much these medications have negatively impacted people's lives, where if you're personally not familiar with what TSW is, some people can full body, their skin is just shedding off, they bleed, they ooze, they get infections, they get hospitalized. It is a very severe situation to go through, and it's sad. And the dermatologists prescribe these things because that is what a dermatologist does. They look at your condition and they prescribe something, right? It's just very sad because steroids are a dangerous medication to use. They are denying that TSW is a real thing, and they're not properly preparing people for how to use it, to avoid TSW, how to manage the entire situation. And so if you gain nothing else from this video, it's spread this information in this video to other people with eczema and encourage them to think twice before they use a certain medication to try to heal, and encourage them to go on a holistic process to heal themselves naturally, because the effects of these medications are very scary and they do not work long term. You cannot be on these medications for a long time and not have crazy side effects. And I'm sure people have had one-off circumstances where they have healed and it's been a wonderful situation and it saved their lives, and I appreciate that. But that's not the majority. The majority are people going through extremely severe conditions because of these medications being prescribed. And it's just not a proper solution for eczema. Eczema has to be healed naturally to get through this process correctly. It's not, those are just Band-Aid solutions. They're like, let's just have the body pretend like there isn't an issue when underlying you have a ton of inflammation, and it's scary. And a lot of these immune suppressants have you then at risk of catching infection and having a whole host of other issues. So my intention is, I hope this speaks to at least one person out there and encourages you to either try to get off of your medications or not use them in the first place, or motivate you to spread this awareness about medications and eczema. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.